I was up in the northern part of the Scranton district last week in the town of Great Bend. The Susquehanna River runs through Great Bend, but sometimes you'd barely know you were going over it. It only spans about 100 yards wide in that neck of the woods. As I moved down closer to Harrisburg today, I noticed the widening, of course, of the Susquehanna River. Amazed again at how all of those tributaries and small streams come together to create a river that down here is almost a mile wide. It's interesting to see as we come together now as the Susquehanna Conference, how more and more of our gifts and our ministries come together as we help one another live into God's new vision for us. We're so used to celebrating water as something that is collected and protected. Even this conference, we're talking about how we can bring together and collect those gifts. Wednesday night of our annual conference, we're going to take a bit of a different look at water. In the passage in 2 Philippians, Paul talks about how water is not being saved, but rather being poured out as a drink offering. We remember Mary and how she poured out her offering to Jesus and how she was chastised by the disciples for doing so because she wasted, in a sense, her offering. In our culture, so often we are called to protect and to save the time that we have, to make sure that our calendars are in order, make sure that our priorities are straight. And yet, as we read in this scripture passage, Paul and really Christ is asking us to pour out our lives, to pour out our gifts, to pour out our time as an offering to God. The men and the women that we celebrate and memorialize on Wednesday night are people who have touched us very, very deeply. These are people that at one time or another have poured out their very lives to say yes to God's calling, to say yes to the giving of their time, to say yes to the free offering of what God has given to them so that others may know of God's love in the world. They have wasted their time well. They have poured themselves out. God calls us to do the exact same thing. God calls us to sometimes waste the time that we're given in order that we can pour it out as an offering so that God may be able to use what we have. May you be blessed by this passage, by our time together at annual conference, by the gift of love for one another.